Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Committee of a Whole for November 18th. The clerk could please read the roll.
Councilmember Wood,
Here.
Councilmember Spatafor, Councilmember Spitzley, Councilmember Washington, Councilmember Hussein, Councilmember Dunbar, Councilmember Jackson, Councilmember Garza.
We do have an excused absence for Councilmember Spatafor. He will not be at the Committee of a Whole or the council meeting. And with that, we are open to public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to make a comment. If there is anyone from the public that would like to make a comment, it's your opportunity to step up to the podium, give us your name for the record. If not, if we have no one from the public to make a comment, I see no one coming forward. With that, we will move on to our agenda. First of all, we will be having a presentation from our Chief Strategy Officer, and then we will be talking about the general fund first quarter report. So with that, I'll turn this over to Shelby, and if you could make sure that the green light is on.
Looks like it. How's that?
That's good.
Excellent.
And I know council's had the opportunity to talk to you already at various different meetings, but if for the public, if you could tell a little bit about yourself and your role, and then we'll move into the general fund.
Sure. Before I get to that, did you need to approve the minutes? It looks like we skipped over number 3.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay, Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Madam President. I move approval of the minutes from November 4th, 2019.
We have a motion on the minutes. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Ready?
Go ahead.
So hello again. I'm Shelby Freyer. I've been here now almost 3 months or so as the Chief Strategy Officer. I've been filling in interim finance director as well. And in our role, been experiencing all sorts of fun challenges and new opportunities for the city, so really happy to be here. My experience has been in essentially turnaround management for local communities across Michigan. I recently came from the Department of Treasury, spent about 5 years there working in distressed local units of government. So spent a lot of time in all sorts of fun places like Benton Harbor and Flint and Detroit, learning a lot. In addition, I've been a school district CFO around the Lansing area, and before that, I managed some federal grants at an association called MAISA. So I have a really unique background that I think suits me really well for the position that I'm here for today. So with that, I'll jump in. We have a couple things before we get started here. I just want to say, too, thanks for taking time to go over the budget. I know it's not the most exciting topic in the world, but it's really important, so I appreciate you guys taking time. That being said, myself and Jake Brower here are new to the finance team here in the city, so we weren't a part of the budget creation, so if you have specific questions about how or why a number is in the budget, we'll do our best to answer it, but obviously not being a part of that creation, we'll have to do some homework. So with that, I also want to just give a quick, go ahead.
One moment, please. Yes, I was going to have her introduce your counterpart, yes.
Sure, I can do that now. This is Jake Brower. He's been hired to focus really on budget for the city. Tremendous asset already, specializes in data, and it has helped us a lot, not only with this budget update, but helping us look at all sorts of data that we have in the finance department.
Okay.
So Jake will give a little background on his, where he came from, too, before he came to the city.
All right.
Yes, so can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I come from several years working at the Michigan Department of Treasury with financially distressed communities. My background is in economics, and I'm finishing up a master's degree in data analytics. That's where a lot of my data background comes from, and working with a lot of data and public finance in order to help local communities understand the enormous amount of information that they have to pile through in order to make informed decisions. And so
that's Jake, everyone.
that's me.
All right.
So before we dive into the numbers here, just a few quick points. The finance team's really been focused on closing out fiscal year 19. So our focus has really been wrapping up audit and getting that fiscal year closed out. We haven't spent as much time into fiscal year 20 as I would have liked. But right now, so the report that you're looking at is really based off of what was generated from the system from the prior finance administration. So we'll do our best, like I said, to answer questions. I will say too, I'm not a fan of how this gets reported out. I don't think it's necessarily very helpful. So that's something that we want to explore with the council of how can we get you more timely information that's demonstrated in a way that's kind of easier to read or digest. So we can talk about that. In addition to, as we start talking about how we're going to get our arms around fiscal year 20, we have our audit coming due at the end of December. Along with our actuary report will also come back to the city at the end of the month. So when we look at our next quarterly budget update that would be due in January, we'd like to actually pair that with the audit, a budget amendment, and our actuary report. So we just have one big night of finance and kind of get us all on track for fiscal year 20, which will help, Jake and myself and the rest of the finance team really own fiscal year 20's budget. So we're really looking forward to doing that, is because right now, if somebody were to ask me how are the assumptions created or why were the projections put in, not living through that creation cycle really puts us behind. So being able to kind of true up the numbers based on how we ended fiscal year 19, as well as having our own assumptions, especially as it relates to vacancies and FTEs, will be really helpful for fiscal year 20. Which of course comes right on the heels of planning for fiscal year 21, as that's going to come out in March. So it's going to be a few months of budget. But I think it'll be really important. We've also talked about doing more than just a one-year budget. So when we talk about a budget amendment in January, I'd like to do at least a 3-year budget projection for March when we roll out the 21 budget. So doing that amendment will really help us get in line for what we need to do for the next fiscal year. So that's kind of our long-term plans. Do you have any questions before I move on to the vacancy?
Are there questions from council? Councilmember Jackson.
Just a quick question. You mentioned a long-term plan, but it basically goes to the next fiscal year. Is there like longer-term plans?
Yeah, so what I'd like to do for our 21 presentation is actually have 22, 23, and 24 also presented. It won't be nearly as detailed, but certainly at a high level, so we can at least see the trends of what we're looking at as far as property tax and income tax revenues go, so that can help us better prepare for whether we need to do, increase expenditures or decrease expenditures, whatever we're looking at. To look out more than just a year, I think will be helpful as we plan things like contract negotiations or any sort of other planning, whether we're talking about insourcing, outsourcing, selling assets, keeping assets, those types of conversations. Having a long-term financial plan will really help us do that.
Other questions, Councilmember Spitzley?
Thank you, Madam President. So I know that one of the recommendations of the financial health team was a 5-year plan. Is there a reason why you're doing a 3-year plan versus a 5-year?
No, I mean, we can certainly add 2 more years. I think for me, just being new and having less than 3 months, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So I was going to try to shoot for 3 and potentially do at our final amendment either something longer than that. I mean, to add on a couple years, it's not that much additional work as we talk about high-level revenue and expenditure assumptions. Right now, I know we're negotiating our contracts out 3 years, so those are the numbers that I feel more confident in because we have contracts for those. But certainly to do an estimate wouldn't be that much more work to add on 2 more years if that's what the council would like to see.
Yes, Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Madam President. So, well, I guess that's fine. One of the, the recommendation was 5 years, plan out 5 years. And I, we're not trying to hold you to anything, as they can be amended as you go along. Sure. And so I would ask that you look at those recommendations and, try to incorporate some of them. We had a lot of time and effort into the financial health team and their recommendations. And so, if you're telling me it's just only a couple more years, then, I would ask that you look at that and look at doing a 5-year budget as was recommended. So the other question I have is, is Mr. Brower, is that your last name, Brower?
Yes.
Is Mr. Brower our permanent budget officer, or how is that working out?
Yes, yep, he's focused strictly on budget right now and also helping with the data projections and things, but he's 100% focused on budget.
He is our budget director?
Yes.
Is that what you're, okay.
Yep.
And so what's the status of, having a finance director and moving, it so that you can focus on, chief strategy officer stuff?
I think that might be better answered by the administration.
At this time, Shelby is the interim finance director, but given some of the conversation that happened a few weeks ago, we are holding off on talking about that in this setting. And we'll have an update before the end of the year.
They're not ready to give us the information at
Correct.
this point. You're still
Yeah,
working on it.
I kind of interpreted that from what she just said. I was just kind of shocked. So, all right.
Thank you. Any other questions? Just a couple of comments. One, I would appreciate, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, the fact that we're getting some projected budget out there other than a year to year, I think is beneficial.
Yeah, I
Um,
think we're definitely happy to take on 5 years. As much as we'll do that, we'll make sure that we have what assumptions we're using very clearly labeled, so that when we talk about, if you projected something out 3 years and all of a sudden there's a big swing, we can go back and say, well, here's what it was based off of. So when I talk about having more confidence in 3 years based on contracts, we'll make sure we also note that those 2 years that we tag onto the back, have a little less on, certain information, but we can certainly do a 5-year. That's not anything that we can.
But just for council's edification, all we're able to do is to pass a year-to-year budget. This is giving us numbers to look at to be able to forecast what we're looking at into the future. So we'll be passing a year-to-year budget. Now, having said that, you had said about a budget amendment in January. How is this going to fix the end of the year audit? Will there be any problem with the fact that we're passing this in January instead of the end of December?
No, in fact, I think that's the more appropriate time to do it. So our audit is due December 31st. And so for us to get that final information for fiscal year 19 will fold in nicely with our amendment for fiscal year 20. So we'll essentially know for sure how we ended fiscal year 19 as a starting point for our budget amendment for FY 20. So to do it any sooner would be pretty challenging. I think January is the right month. I know I'm going to really stretch the finance team to just make that happen. Again, as much detail as we can get into this budget amendment, we will. But of course, being new to the process and new to the things that have either been agreed to or talked about, or whether they've been baked into this original budget or not, are all things that we're exploring as we're new. So I think doing a budget amendment helps us get our arms around what was originally passed for fiscal year 20, as well as include audit numbers and other things that we found along the way.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Washington.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, it's about time. I can't tell you how happy I am to hear that you're going to do 3 years or 5 years, and that you're actually going to be working on some data and moving things forward. So I'm happy. I won't be here, but I'll watch, and I'm happy to see this go forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments by council members? Okay, so we'll let you start with the general fund information, and then as we have questions, we might stop you
Absolutely.
during the presentation to ask those questions.
Excellent. So, for you have the first quarter budget to actual report, which includes revenue and expenditures ranging from July 1st to September 30th. Currently, the Finance Office is prioritizing efforts towards finalizing the previous fiscal year in preparation for the annual audit. As a result, information for the current fiscal year is incomplete and subject to change as we add in these adjustments and finalize entries for the year. The report itself reflects a snapshot as of Thursday, October 31st, when it was submitted to the council as required by Article 7 of the city charter. But the format of itself, the report itself, should be pretty familiar. Going across in budget level detail, you can see the adopted 2020 budget, revenues and expenditures to date for the first quarter, and the percent of revenues and expenditures to date within their budget category. And this third column has been ran for each of the 3 previous fiscal years, and so you have an average at the far right column to give you a reference point of where we were in previous fiscal years as the data from the report has been exported. And so to date, we generally expect, based on these previous years, that about 95% of revenues come from property taxes and income taxes at this point. Property taxes come at the beginning of the year, and you'll notice that currently it exceeds the budgeted amount. This is subject to chargebacks, and so this amount will change periodically through the rest of the fiscal year as we adjust that and finalize that number.
I'm going to
income-
stop you right there.
Yes.
Can you tell us how many properties we have in the tax tribunal right now?
I could get that information back to you.
If you could get us that and the number, the cash number that we could be looking at as refunds if the tax tribunal granted those. Thank you.
Any further questions at this point?
Any more questions on revenue? My question on revenue would be, under the income tax, do we believe that increase has to do with a larger workforce or higher wages?
Is actually a decrease. The column on the left, the 6.7% is to date. The 10.8% is the average for the 3 previous fiscal years. Having just rerun this report this
Okay.
morning.
I'm sorry, I misread it. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry if I
No,
expressed that differently.
No,
but,
you're fine.
Looking at that, there could be many possible factors in place. It could be a result of the GM strikes, in which case we'd be seeing some of that revenue running in the next quarter. It could also be a factor of that we are focusing so much on the previous fiscal year, wrapping that up, that we haven't entered in all of the cash receipts to date for that category. And so by the second quarter, when we're submitting the budgetary amendment, we should have updated data for both the first quarter and the second quarter, which will definitely present a more accurate picture of where the city is.
Because of our 425 agreements that we have, which encompass the GM properties, I'd like to know with the strike, how that has impacted what we had previously budgeted for income tax coming in, what we see as a potential loss with that.
We can certainly explore that. I'll add too, I mean, we know a lot of the folks with the GM strike received a signing bonus to not necessarily make up all those wages, but a fair amount of them. And so, like Jake mentioned, since they were essentially on a 6 or 8 week delay, it's likely that they'll just hit another quarter in our budget. But certainly, I mean, we can explore the 425s and just take a peek at, are we going to see any sort of major changes, which again, using our data and what we know to project those things out, when we have our next quarterly update, we'll know a lot more about how things landed. But my understanding right now is that some of the folks that work at GM received checks about 2 weeks ago for their signing bonus. And of course, this report only collects through September 30th. So I think it's just a timing issue, at least right now from what we can tell, but certainly we'll explore that further.
Okay, Councilmember Hussein, you had your hand up.
Yeah, not really. I guess thinking out loud, I would assume that when we looked at projected income tax for fiscal year 2020, we considered the impact that East Lansing's income tax would have on us, correct? So there is probably nothing reflected in here that is tied to that.
So again, I mean, since I wasn't a part of the creation, I don't want to guess on an answer. I can go back and see if there's any notes left, or maybe someone else from the administration has that information.
I can only say, if I may jump in, what I was told before with the previous finance director, which was that the East Lansing income tax would not have an impact on our budget. But I do not know I cannot verify that. So I'm sure Shelby and Jake will take a look at it.
Well, again, I want to stress the importance of doing an amendment, because that's something then that we own for fiscal year 20, and we know what the assumptions were in, and we'll be able to make those adjustments accordingly. Right now, whether they include it or not, I mean, for us to figure that out or find that out, we certainly can try.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Madam President. Did we have a projection when this whole thing was happening on the East Lansing income tax of how much it was going to impact, how much we were projected to lose?
I thought it was $750,000.
It was around 800,000, so just a little north of that.
And I appreciate that. So my follow-up then is, I mean, $800,000 is $800,000. How can that not have an impact on our budget?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's another reason why we do a budget amendment, to make sure that the assumptions that were originally baked in are our assumptions going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Other questions? Okay, now down to expenditures, unless you had anything else under revenues that you needed to discuss.
Nope, if you have no questions, I can continue on.
Okay,
Yep, so expenditures today are pretty low compared to what we would expect. One of these factors is that courts, as you notice, is currently an actual of 0. This is because this budget amount is included in a separate fund entirely, at least as far as it goes in terms of our accounting system. And so including that funds, you start to see a total amount that reflects more of what previous years have been in line with. And so within the departmental budgets, most of the departments are in line with expectations. Public services currently exceeds where they were in the 3 previous years as far as an average goes. In terms of year to year, they are currently ahead of where they were in the 2017 and 2018 fiscal years, and they are improved from the 2019 fiscal year. And is there any questions specifically on the departmental budgets?
Questions? Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, ma'am. And maybe I'm missing something. Is IT not a department anymore?
So right now, it's not set up that way. Each department has a portion that gets charged to it for those particular expenses. That might be something that we look to change in the future, just so that it's clear how much we're spending. But as of right now,
So that was, because, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yeah, I believe the IT have their own individual fund that's kept separate, and
Yeah.
then it's charged
Okay,
out.
That's an
what I wanted-
enterprise fund.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Other questions? Was there a reach back done to public service to find out why the increase?
Not as of yet, but I can reach out to them and get a definite answer on that.
If we could get an answer as to what that increase potentially equates to, I would appreciate it. If we're doing more paving, if we're doing whatever, at least we're able to justify that.
Glad to get you an answer for that. Yeah, and then as far as the non-departmental budgets, currently we're at about 6.6% if you exclude transfers and debt service compared to previous years at 24%. So we're below expenditures there as well. As we've said at the beginning and throughout this, this reflects the budget to actual report as it stood running the report in October 31st. If we ran this report today, the information would be slightly updated, and as we focus our efforts onto the current fiscal year, following the completion of the audit, we should have even more accurate information going forward.
I'll add to, there's a lot of manual processes here throughout the city that we certainly can make more efficient throughout all departments. That's something that we're gonna work towards so that these numbers and even just pulling the reports together, I'm sure Mr. Brewer can also sympathize with us that when you go to actually run a report, it takes multi-reports that you cobble together to make the one report that's due. So definitely something that we wanna work at automating and streamlining so that going forward, this process just makes a lot more sense and is a lot easier for everyone.
Any other questions on that, under expenditures? Seeing none. Okay, move on to the vacancy factor.
So I just want to start off by saying I think that this is a terrible report. We did it because this is what the council is used to seeing, but I don't think it really gets to what you're looking to get. I don't think it answers the questions that you're looking for, which, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because we would love some input and feedback on this as we produce the next one for January. But my understanding is that this council wanted to see how many FTEs were included in the budget versus how many have been filled or are vacant right now. And then also list out which positions have either been contracted services or will just remain vacant for the rest of the year. And obviously this report doesn't do a great job of doing that. The report changed slightly and just that we didn't have time to put this together for this year. I know that there's been a back and forth with HR department to try to answer some of these questions, but I just don't think the report does what you're looking for. So if you have specific feedback or want it to look a certain way or are looking for key information, do you guys not have the report?
We're just smelling something, so we're trying to figure out what it is.
Last time it was a light switch.
Yeah.
I can't smell anything.
Okay. Is it just in here?
Maybe it's in the back.
I can't smell it in the back at all.
Okay, since we don't see anything, we'll keep moving forward. I think one of the things that we've asked repeatedly, and along with showing in each department what vacant positions that you have vacant, is the salary that was attached to that. If it is being filled by a contract, then we want to know how much of that salary is being utilized for the contract and what the savings is by contracting instead of filling that position.
Or surplus in case it was more.
Correct.
expensive. Gotcha, okay,
Correct.
okay.
So those are some of the things that we've been repeatedly asking for. And as we get closer, and I know that Mr. Brewer has been working on trying to get those numbers working now that he has access to the system to be able to provide some of that help as well. So that when we look at this, when the public talks about the fact that you have a position, you haven't filled it, but if we put a contract person in just to save benefits, and that contract person is there for 3 years, I mean,
Right.
those are not making sense. And so we want to be able to take a snapshot in time and take a look at those things when we have the general fund revenues coming in. We want to do that at the same time,
Makes sense.
okay?
So we'll certainly put that together for January.
Okay.
It also would make sense to me, especially in that case where someone is going to be in a long-term contracted position, that in the budget, we would just identify contracted services and put the position there versus having this inflated number of FTEs.
Correct.
So I think we can do a better job of just tightening up what we're budgeting and what's realistic too. I mean, at the end of the day, HR can only hire so many positions at one time. And so when we think about how many are vacant versus how many will be vacant in quarters, I think that's something we can work with HR on a little closer to make sure that we're accurate with what we're projecting.
Well, and I think our other issue, again, and we realize that HR can only fill so many positions,
Sure.
but, and we'll use your department, the finances, as an example. We heard repeatedly that there were contract positions in that department for up to 5 years. You know, if that person can do that job for 5 years, then why wasn't that person offered the job?
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense to continue under that vein.
I
So,
agree. Well, that's helpful, and we'll certainly work to, I would like to start getting information to the council at least a week in advance so that you have time to review or ask questions. I hate being late on anything, so actually thanks to Mrs. Boak for giving us the heads up that this report was due. We went as quickly as we could to get the information to you guys, but now that we know kind of the expectation, it'll be easier for us to put together.
all right. Are there, in looking at the information that you have in front of you, are there any questions on that information?
We got it this weekend. Yep. No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Jackson.
It's kind of a question, kind of just a comment for all of us. So, you know, when we're talking to the public and the public says we need more police officers, which we often hear, isn't it true based on this vacancy report that we have funded positions but just not filled? So as far as our job of possibly funding more, is kind of like not right on point yet until all the police positions are filled? Would that be a fair statement?
I would think that the part of the issue is that you have retirements, and it's front-loading so that you don't have that position left vacant. And so the more that we can do front-loading, get them trained, get them into place, so that when somebody retires, then you wouldn't be seeing those vacancies there. So that would help as well. Other questions? And I maybe this segues in for the administration. When we're looking at operations and maintenance, and we're seeing a number of O&M jobs and things like that, I know one of the things that we've heard repeatedly and people have put on Facebook is about the yard waste pickups. So could you address that a little bit, Samantha?
Yes, of course, Madam President. I know this time of year it always gets challenging, especially when winter comes a little early like it did last week and people's yard waste bags are then covered in snow. Part of the challenge is that our seasonal employees this late in the year are no longer with us. They're in the summer. And so as we're picking up yard waste and there's more of it because we are all cleaning up all the leaves that are falling, it just becomes a little more challenging to keep up. So we understand and appreciate that it's taking a few more days. And it's certainly challenging. We are working to catch back up a little bit on that. Last week was a few extra days, more than we would like, but we're certainly working hard. And we talked about this morning in our cabinet meeting. And so we're hoping to, right now we're running about a day and a half behind. So hoping to pick up some of that time this week with better weather and a little more, being able to run the routes a little more easily.
Councilmember Hussein.
Just for clarification up here, yard waste pickup extends through next week, is it?
Yes, next week is the last week. It's the end of the month, end of November. I know, that face. I have a bunch of leaves in my yard too, Councilman, I understand.
My concern is more the people that actually have been able to, pile those, bag them, things of that nature, and then actually get them out by the curb. Can we guarantee that those folks that have, we can guarantee that they're going to be
Yep,
picked
for those who are out by the 30th, they will be picked up.
up? Okay.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Garza and then Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Madam President. So someone reached out to me today because I shared what the city shared about the leaf bags pick up. Was there anything that stopped them and prevented them from picking up like 2 weeks ago, the last 2 weeks? Because there's people stating that they've had it out for 2 weeks now and haven't had anybody come by to pick them up.
I did not know about that. To my knowledge, we were running a little behind, but everyone was still being picked up. If there was someone that wasn't picked up, if you could please share the address with me, and I'll talk to public service, but that's the first I've heard of that.
Okay, thank you.
And certainly, we don't want that to be the case.
Any other questions? Any questions on the any additional questions on the vacancy factor? Seeing none. Okay, we want to thank you very much for coming down. We look forward to the next report and working with you in the future. So thank you very much. With that, we move on to the resolution dealing with our council meeting agenda. And that's in front of you. If we had a short discussion about this at a previous committee of a whole meeting, I've not heard from anybody else about making any changes to this. It also calls for the first committee of a whole meeting at 5:30 on Monday, January 6th, and then our first organized, our annual organization council meeting right after that committee of a whole. Are there any questions on this? Seeing none, Councilmember Spitzley.
President, I move that we pass the, let me get the correct wording here. I move that we pass the resolution setting the council meetings for the year 2020.
We have a motion. Are there any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, passes unanimously. So with that, are there anything else that we've got for us? Seeing nothing, then we are adjourned until the council meeting. Thank you.
I'm glad you're leaving.
bit.